Formula One has always been a sport of intense rivalries, heated battles, and controversial decisions.
Good job, man.
But this goes way beyond that. From teams sabotaging their own drivers to deliberate crashes that manipulated entire race results. These are the moments that crossed every line imaginable. We're counting down the top 10 most disrespectful moments in F1 history, ranked from bad to absolutely unforgivable. When you see what takes the number 1 spot, you'll understand why it's considered the biggest scandal in motorsport history. Starting at number 10, we've got a moment that wasn't about one driver's ego. It was an entire grid collectively losing the plot. Monza 2019, the Temple of Speed, turned into the Temple of Stupidity. This was supposed to be Ferrari's weekend. Charles Leclerc, the golden boy of the Tifosi, had just conquered Spa and was ready to do it again on home soil. But Monza's long straights made the slipstream, or tow, worth half a second a lap, so everyone wanted to be behind someone else, and no one wanted to be the one giving the tow. Just minutes into Q3, Kimi Räikkönen lost control at Curva Parabolica, slamming his Alfa Romeo into the wall and bringing out a red flag.
And into the barriers goes Kimi Räikkönen!
That pause reset everything, and gave the teams too much time to overthink. Suddenly, every strategist on the pit wall was running the same equation: how to be last out of the pit lane without missing the flag. When the session resumed, it became a slow-motion farce. Drivers crawled around on their outlaps like they were in a parade lap for clowns, brake testing, weaving, blocking, anything to avoid being at the front. Nico Hülkenberg even took the escape road at turn 1, just to drop to the back. Drivers crept around like tourists on a track walk, and when it was over, even the paddock agreed. Formula One had just made itself look like a bunch of amateurs.
3, 2, and 1, and I don't think they've made it.
Come on, guys.
They've not made it.
As the clock hit 0, only Leclerc and Sainz made it across the line, in time to start a flying lap. Everyone else? Too slow. Qualifying ended with laughter, boos, and the FIA demanding explanations. This was a collective act of disrespect to the sport, to the fans, and to the idea that Formula One is supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsport. That day, it looked more like the pinnacle of poor coordination. Moving to number 9, we have a moment that exposed just how deep team tensions can run inside even the most dominant garage on the grid. The 2022 Brazilian Grand Prix gave us one of the coldest, most uncomfortable radio exchanges F1 has ever broadcast. By this point in the season, Red Bull had already crushed everyone. Verstappen had sealed his second world title, the Constructors was in the bag, and on paper, this should have been a calm cruise to the finish. But Sergio Perez was still fighting for second place in the Drivers' Championship, a position no Red Bull teammate had ever secured behind Verstappen, and the team wanted to make that happen. Late in the race, a second safety car restart shook up the order and Perez fell behind. The team told Max he could go ahead to chase down Fernando Alonso's Alpine, but on one condition. If he couldn't pass Alonso, he had to give the place back before the flag. Simple, right? Except, when the final lap came, Verstappen didn't move. His engineer Gianpiero Lambiase came on the radio.
Max, if we don't pass Fernando on the exit of 12, can we let Checo through, please?
And that's when the ice hit.
I told you already last time, you guys don't ask that again to me, okay? Are we clear about that? I gave my reasons, and I stand by it.
The tone was pure frost. The silence afterwards said even more. Red Bull's pit wall froze. Perez's voice cracked over the radio. Yeah, it shows who he really is. Fans watching around the world could feel the tension through their TVs. So what exactly were those reasons? Behind the scenes, many pointed back to Monaco earlier that season. In qualifying, Perez had crashed at Portier, bringing out a red flag that locked in his position ahead of Verstappen. Max's camp reportedly believed that crash wasn't entirely accidental, that Checo may have done it to secure track position. Nothing was ever proven, but the seed of mistrust was planted. And in Brazil, it finally exploded. After the race, Perez confronted Christian Horner saying, "I helped him win 2 championships." Horner and Helmut Marko publicly sided with Checo, warning Max to make things right in Abu Dhabi, but the damage was done. What made this moment so brutally disrespectful wasn't just that Verstappen refused a team order, it was that he did it live, over radio, with the whole world listening. It was ego over unity, power over partnership, and honestly, you could feel that fracture echo through Red Bull for months. Max's defiance might have shocked people in 2022, but let's be honest, Formula One has always had a messy relationship with team orders. And no moment sums that up better than this one. At number 8, we have one of the most blatant examples of team orders destroying a driver's race, and a fan's faith in fair play. The 2010 German Grand Prix at Hockenheim will forever be remembered for a single, soul-crushing line over team radio. By mid-season, Ferrari was cornered, McLaren was leading both championships, Red Bull was faster on nearly every track, and Alonso's title hopes were slipping away. Felipe Massa, still rebuilding after his near-fatal crash the year before, was leading beautifully at Hockenheim. But to Ferrari, one win for Massa meant nothing if Alonso's title fight was fading. Then came the call.
So, Fernando is faster than you. You confirm you understood that message?
It wasn't subtle. Everyone knew exactly what it meant. Massa lifted on lap 49, letting Alonso through. On the anniversary of his 2009 accident, the race that nearly ended his career, Ferrari ordered him to give away the win he'd fought so hard for. The backlash was instant. Fans booed, pundits erupted, and even rival team bosses called it the clearest team order ever seen. The FIA launched an investigation, and Ferrari's top brass, Domenicali, Rivola, Alonso, and Massa, were all summoned by the stewards. Ferrari escaped with a $100,000 fine and a formal investigation. Their win stood, but their reputation took the real hit. The scandal even forced the FIA to rewrite its own rulebook on team orders. What made it even more insulting was Ferrari's denial afterward. Domenicali claimed Massa chose to move aside, Alonso pretended to be surprised, and everyone else rolled their eyes. It was corporate damage control at its worst. Parallels were instantly drawn to Austria, 2002, when Rubens Barrichello was told to hand victory to Schumacher. The difference? Back then, team orders were legal. In 2010, they weren't. At least not until this race forced the FIA to quietly scrap the ban altogether. For Massa, though, the damage was permanent. That was the day Ferrari stopped seeing him as a contender and started treating him as a wingman. Massa's heartbreak showed how cruel team orders could be. But number 7? That's when respect didn't just disappear, it exploded. Number 7 takes us to one of the most shocking outbursts of road rage F1 has ever seen. The 2017 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, or as many fans call it, the day F1 went off the rails. The race had already been chaos. Safety cars, debris everywhere, Force Indias colliding, and tempers flaring.
Well done, Massa, as the two Force Indias collide there and there's big damage.
At the front, title rivals Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel were locked in a tense standoff. Two champions playing mind games even behind the safety car. Hamilton led, Vettel glued to his gearbox, waiting for the restart. Then came lap 19. Hamilton slowed slightly, backing up the pack before the restart. Standard procedure. But Vettel thought it was deliberate and that he had brake tested him.
Wait, he brake tested me. What the going on?
Vettel literally just came alongside me and turned in and hit me.
It wasn't a mistake or heat of the moment racing, it was a 4-time world champion using his car like a battering ram. The world froze, commentators lost it, and Hamilton radioed, "That's dangerous driving, man." Telemetry later proved Hamilton hadn't even touched the brakes. The stewards handed Vettel a 10-second stop-go penalty, one of the harshest short of a black flag. But many thought he should have been disqualified. Ironically, Hamilton's own race unraveled anyway when his headrest came loose, forcing a pit stop that cost him the win. Daniel Ricciardo took victory in one of the wildest races of the decade, with rookie Lance Stroll somehow snagging a podium. Afterward, Vettel tried to downplay it, saying he didn't hit Hamilton very hard. But the problem wasn't the impact, it was the intent. It was a moment where frustration and ego completely overrode judgment, where one of the sport's most respected champions forgot himself. Vettel later apologized, both publicly and to Hamilton, and called it one of his biggest regrets. But apologies can't rewrite the moment. Under the safety car in Baku, he crossed a line no champion should, and, for a few seconds, ego outdrove reason. Vettel's meltdown in Baku was explosive. But number 6, that was cold, calculated, and straight out of the Schumacher playbook. At number 6, we have Michael Schumacher pulling one of the most shameless acts of gamesmanship in Formula One history. Monaco 2006, qualifying day, and the 7-time world champion reminded everyone why his name still divides the paddock. Schumacher was sitting on provisional pole. Fernando Alonso was behind him on a flying lap, and 2/10 quicker through Sector 2. The Renault was about to steal pole, and that's when Schumacher decided, not today. As he approached the Rascasse corner, Schumacher locked up, ran wide, and ever so conveniently stopped his Ferrari right across the racing line. Yellow flags flew instantly. Every driver behind him, including Alonso, had to abort their lap. Session over. Pole secured. Or so he thought. Schumacher claimed afterward that he'd just locked the fronts. But nobody in the paddock was buying it. The timing was perfect, placement was too convenient, and the steering input was awkwardly theatrical. The stewards investigated, reviewed the data, and called it exactly what everyone knew it was: deliberate. They sent Schumacher and his teammate to the very back of the grid. The first time in history, both Ferraris started from the last row. The paddock reaction was brutal. Steward Joaquin Verdeguer said Schumacher's steering was pathetic and unnecessary. Keke Rosberg called it the cheapest, dirtiest thing I've ever seen in F1. He should leave F1 and go home. Even Jean Todt, Ferrari's team boss, admitted he was disgusted, though at the penalty, not the act. Alonso inherited pole and went on to win, while Schumacher's weekend turned from masterclass to embarrassment. The manipulation is what made number 6 so disrespectful. A split-second choice to sabotage a rival rather than lose fair and square. It was proof that for all his brilliance, Schumacher's win-at-all-costs instinct sometimes crossed a line no champion should. His parking job was blatant gamesmanship. But number 5? It's what happens when ego, betrayal, and revenge collide inside a team already on the edge. We're into the top 5 now, and this one redefined the meaning of team tension. The 2007 Hungarian Grand Prix. The weekend, the McLaren dream team of Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton completely imploded. The season had started with so much promise. 2 world-class drivers, 1 rookie phenom, and a car fast enough to win it all. By mid-season, it had turned toxic. Alonso felt disrespected, and Hamilton refused to play the obedient rookie. The tension boiled over in Budapest. Heading into qualifying, the team had a pre-arranged plan. Alonso would go out first for a clean final lap. But when Hamilton left the garage ahead of him, breaking that deal, Alonso saw red. When both drivers pitted for new tyres at the end of Q3, Alonso decided to get even. He sat in the pit box, not for 2 seconds, not for 5, but for a full 10 seconds after being told to go. Hamilton sat helplessly behind him, watching the clock bleed away. When Alonso finally moved, it was too late. Hamilton couldn't start another lap. His shot at pole was gone. Alonso took provisional pole, but the stewards weren't fooled. They penalised him 5 grid spots for impeding another driver, stripped McLaren of their constructors' points for the weekend, and chaos erupted inside the team. Ron Dennis was furious, Alonso was unapologetic, and Hamilton wasn't backing down. Behind the scenes, things got darker. Alonso allegedly threatened to expose McLaren's secret possession of Ferrari data, sparking the now infamous Spygate scandal. That investigation would end with McLaren fined $100 million and expelled from the Constructors' Championship entirely. Hungary, 2007, wasn't just about a pit lane delay. It was the moment trust inside McLaren completely shattered. It was a declaration of war, live on TV, between 2 drivers who were supposed to be working together. Alonso left McLaren at the end of that season, but the damage was permanent. The greatest talent pairing in years had turned into Formula One's most public divorce. The Hamilton-Alonso feud tore one team apart. But number 4, that's when one driver decided team orders, loyalty, and logic didn't apply to him. At number 4, we have one of the most infamous acts of defiance in modern F1 history, the 2013 Malaysian Grand Prix, the day Sebastian Vettel showed that even team orders couldn't tame his hunger to win. By lap 40, Red Bull seemed untouchable. Webber led, Vettel sat right behind him. The team was cruising toward an easy 1-2 finish. Then came the radio call, Multi-21. For Red Bull, that was code for Car 2 behind Car 1. Webber stays in front, Vettel holds position, conserve fuel, bring it home safely. Vettel acknowledged the message, then ignored it completely. Lap after lap, he closed the gap, lining up Webber like a predator. Trusting the order, Webber didn't fight aggressively until Vettel went for it. On lap 46, he lunged down the inside. The 2 cars went wheel to wheel at nearly 180 miles an hour, inches from disaster. But Vettel didn't back off. He forced his way through and took the lead. The pit wall was stunned. Christian Horner radioed,
This is silly, sir. Come on.
but it didn't matter. Vettel was gone. He crossed the line first, ignoring the fury behind him. In the cool-down room, Webber turned to him and said, dripping with venom,
Multi-21, sir. Yeah, multi-21.
3 words that summed up betrayal, ego, and total disregard for team unity. But this wasn't just disobedience. It was years of bad blood exploding on track. Ever since their collision at the 2010 Turkish Grand Prix, Vettel and Webber's relationship had been toxic. Webber had ignored team orders before, most notably at Silverstone in 2011, and in Vettel's mind this was payback. After the race, Vettel offered a half-hearted apology, but the truth came out soon after. he didn't regret it.
I was racing, I was faster, I passed him, I won.
Red Bull never punished him. His lawyers made sure of that. This was more than a win. It was a statement, one that said loyalty was optional, but victory, non-negotiable. Vettel's rebellion shattered team orders. But number 3 was bigger than teams and rules. This was personal. This is the moment when revenge became the only strategy. The top 3 is where things get truly shocking. At number 3, we have one of the coldest, most deliberate acts in Formula 1 history. Senna's calculated payback against Alain Prost at the 1990 Japanese Grand Prix. 1 year earlier, the same circuit had decided the title in controversy. Senna and Prost collided at Suzuka in 1989.
This is the opportunity that Senna's looking for, and he's going through. Ouch! Oh my goodness, this is fantastic! They meet. This is what we were fearing might happen during the race.
Prost took the championship, Senna was disqualified, and the FIA, led by French President Jean-Marie Balestre, was accused of protecting its own. Senna never forgot. Fast forward to 1990. Senna was now leading the championship with McLaren. Prost, his old teammate, had jumped to Ferrari. At Suzuka, Senna took pole position, but it wasn't the advantage it should have been. His spot was on the dirty side of the track, off the racing line, where traction was terrible. He protested, and the stewards initially agreed to move it.
I can't stand it. I can't stand this. It's a joke.
But later that night, FIA President Jean-Marie Balestre personally stepped in and overturned the decision. Pole would stay on the dirty side, and that was the final straw. Before the race, Senna told reporters, "I said to myself, okay, you try to work cleanly and you get effed by certain people. All right, if tomorrow Prost beats me off the line at the first corner, I will go for it. And he better not turn in because he's not going to make it."
The right-hand side is pole position, and the track is dirty there. Senna asked for the pole position to be changed to the left. His request, rather, was refused.
The lights went out. Prost launched better from the clean side, pulling ahead into turn 1. Senna didn't flinch. He dived down the inside in a move that could never have worked.
Senna is trying to go through on the inside, and it's happened immediately. This is amazing. Senna goes off at the first corner.
Race over, and the championship decided. Senna climbed out, calm and emotionless. He'd done exactly what he'd planned and became world champion on the spot. Later, he admitted he'd made that choice long before the lights went out. If Prost led, neither of them would finish. The crash at Suzuka wasn't born from rage or desperation. It was deliberate. Senna wanted everyone to know, the FIA, Balestre, Prost, he wouldn't be manipulated again. Prost called it disgusting. Senna called it justice. History calls it one of the darkest chapters in Formula 1. Because in that instant, the line between passion and vengeance disappeared. And even one of the sport's greatest icons proved how far a legend would go to make a point. Senna's revenge might have shocked the world. But number 2 proved that in Formula 1, history doesn't fade. It just finds a new name willing to cross the same line. At number 2, we have the moment that cemented Michael Schumacher's reputation as both a genius behind the wheel and the most ruthless driver of his era. The 1994 Australian Grand Prix in Adelaide. It's the final race of the season, and 1 point separated Schumacher from Damon Hill. Whoever finished ahead would be world champion. For 36 laps, Schumacher led, with Hill stalking him relentlessly. Both men were driving on the limit. A season defined by tragedy, controversy, and tension was about to end in chaos. At the East Terrace corner, Schumacher clipped the wall, bouncing his Benetton back onto the circuit with a visibly damaged car. His right side pod was bent, the suspension tweaked, his title hopes slipping away. But just as Hill went for the inside line, Schumacher swerved left and turned straight into him. The cars collided, shattering Hill's front suspension, and Schumacher's Benetton hit the wall again. Both were out. Schumacher climbed from the wreckage and jogged toward the pits, his job done. Hill limped back to the garage, only to learn his car was beyond repair. Schumacher became a world champion by a single point. The stewards called it a racing incident, but nobody bought it. Williams' Patrick Head later said the team was 100% certain. Schumacher did it on purpose. Even BBC commentators were split. Murray Walker insisted it was just hard racing, while Jonathan Palmer and Barry Sheene called it exactly what it looked like, a deliberate hit. It was Schumacher's first world title, Germany's first ever, but it came with an asterisk. He'd weaponized his own mistake. The moment he hit the wall, he made a decision. If his race was over, Hill's would be too. One move changed everything. In that split second, Schumacher traded honor for a title, and the sport would never look at him the same way again. No penalty, no protest, just silence, and a world champion's smile and a reputation that would follow him forever. For Damon Hill, it was heartbreaking. He'd carried the weight of Williams after Senna's death that year, fought through immense pressure, and lost everything in a single, cynical moment. It was one of the most controversial title deciders in F1 history, and Formula One learned that Michael Schumacher would do whatever it took to win. This crash showed how one moment could steal a title. But number one, that wasn't one moment. It was an entire race, planned, executed, and covered up. This was deception at its finest. And now, the number one most disrespectful moment in Formula One history. A scandal so calculated it didn't just taint a race, it corrupted the sport itself. The 2008 Singapore Grand Prix looked like a triumph. Fernando Alonso, starting 15th on the grid, somehow stormed through the field to win. Commentators called it a masterclass in strategy. But behind the celebration, something sinister was hiding. A year later, Nelson Piquet Jr. revealed the truth. Renault had ordered him to crash. The plan was as cynical as it was brilliant. Piquet would hit the wall at turn 17, triggering a safety car just after Alonso's early pit stop. When the others stopped under caution, Alonso would inherit track position and the win. Lap 14, right on cue, Piquet's Renault slammed into the wall. The safety car came out and chaos followed. Felipe Massa, who was leading the championship fight against Lewis Hamilton, was released from his pit box with a fuel hose still attached. The mistake destroyed his race, and many believe his shot at the title. When the dust settled, Alonso stood on the top step of the podium, smiling. No one yet knew that the entire race had been rigged from the start. When Piquet's confession surfaced in 2009, Formula One was rocked to its core. The FIA confirmed the conspiracy. Team boss Flavio Briatore and engineer Pat Simons had orchestrated the crash. Renault admitted guilt. Briatore was banned indefinitely, Simons for 5 years, and Renault received a suspended disqualification. A warning that one more offence would mean expulsion. But even that wasn't the end. Briatore and Simons sued the FIA and later had their bans overturned. The win stood and the record books stayed untouched. And that's where the real bitterness lies, because Felipe Massa lost the 2008 championship to Lewis Hamilton by a single point. To this day, Massa argues that Crashgate stole the title from him, and even Bernie Ecclestone later admitted the FIA chose to protect the sport rather than reveal the truth when it happened. Crashgate was a betrayal that was orchestrated. It was a team that staged an accident, risked a driver's life, and fooled the entire world, all to win a race they didn't deserve. It remains the darkest, most disgraceful act the sport has ever seen. 10 races, 10 betrayals, and a trail of wreckage that changed Formula One forever. Because in this sport, respect isn't given. It's the first thing to go when the lights go out. But here's my question for you. Do you agree with this ranking? Was Crashgate truly the most disrespectful? Or do you think Schumacher's 1994 Ram or Senna's 1990 Retaliation deserves the top spot? Let me know in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more F1 content, and drop a comment telling me which moment shocked you the most. Because in Formula One, the line between competitive spirit and outright disrespect is thinner than you think.